Hi, Carl. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
I am outstanding. I'm so pumped to be on with Jesse Freitag.
I love it. It is awesome to have you here, and I come to Carl for all the good, dad puns. So it's
I'm
great
glad I
to.
can provide that.
It's a service that someone has to provide. So
As a
I'm
dadtrepreneur, I think I am qualified.
you're out there doing it. I love it. It's so fun to have you on the show after kind of meeting you through LinkedIn and the Startup CPG community and then getting to meet in person at Expo East. It's fun to get to talk on the show. So it's just nice to have you here today.
Yeah, but somebody said it like your like digital friends then become like real friends.
Yeah, I
We
love it.
went through that process.
Yes, it's so cool. So, well, tell us about Awesome Sauce. Tell us a little bit about your founding story.
Yeah, so Awesome Sauce is the world's first sustainability focused sauce company. So we start as a powder, and our powder is mixed with water to reconstitute and make ketchup, barbecue, hot sauce, mustard, all the sauces that you know and love. And Paul and I started out as on a sustainability mission to extract single-use plastic squeeze bottles. We are in the middle of a bit of a pivot, but we can get into that. So Paul, funny story was the backstory here. This was Paul's idea, and I totally jumped in. I didn't steal it, but I totally jumped in and inserted myself. So Paul was my boss. Paul was the co-athletic director at Westtown, and I was the lacrosse coach. And I had pitched him like day one. I had pitched him on a completely separate idea. 50K was the ask. I was like, Paul, you got to be in 50K, and he was like, no chance. And then we had just been back and forth. COVID hit, so all sports were off, and we were talking more. And so he had this idea. His tagline is, "My sauces are better than your sauces." And he was like, "I want to start a sauce company." And I was like, "Oh, I'm in." Like not even a hesitation. It's like, I'm in. And so we jumped on with a mutual friend of ours who had a locally successful sauce company. And essentially found out quickly that pre-prepped sauces is not the way to go. And so we dove in. We would get online. We had this routine where, because I was working at Comcast, then I'd go out to Westtown and coach, and then I'd go home and we'd get the kids to bed by like 8 o'clock, and then Paul and I would jump on around 8 or 8:30 and hammer through stuff until midnight, talking through all the what if we did this? Maybe we could do this. And so in those sessions, we quickly came to like, what if you could start with a powder to make the sauce? And then, man, it's kind of been a whirlwind since then. Like, every entrepreneur goes through, but it's crazy. Here we are.
That's amazing. And I'm an awesome sauce convert. Like
Yes.
when I first saw your product, because like I said, I think we connected on LinkedIn. I went to your website and I was like, this seems weird. But I was
Uh-huh.
curious. So I ordered a sample. I got it. My husband was super skeptical. He was like, I'm not gonna eat that. That's gonna be
Was that
disgusting.
was that
Like,
when we were doing our free sample packets, like the
yeah,
30?
yeah.
Oh man,
I
outstanding.
I
Okay.
ordered it in the mail, got it, and I shook it up. I made some fries, and then I ate it. I put the Heinz next to it. I did a whole side by side. I documented it because that's the world we live in for
Yep.
Instagram. And then I was like, wait, this is incredible. Like, I like this better than the Heinz in
It's
the
actually
fridge.
ketchup. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's so
It,
good. The texture's perfect. Like, I don't know. It seems like some sort of dark magic because it's just like, whoa, it's the same, and even actually even better. So yeah, I really love it.
Outstanding. Preach, please. We need that.
Yes,
um,
it sounds like I'm an awesome sauce brand ambassador, and I kind of want to be because I've definitely become a big fan.
we're thinking that way, trying to figure out who can we get to put content out. That's the hardest part because our product, it's really important. Like trial is really important because off the cuff, powdered sauce is not a sexy thing to think about or anything. So the trial piece is super, super important. Like, does it look the same? Is it the same consistency? Does it taste the same? And then for us, we also test, does it cook the same? Like have the same behaviors? And so the trial piece, I think TikTok is going to become a big outlet for us because it sort of shows the action and reactions and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool. But yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. When we had the Shelfie Awards, and which you were a winner of, which was
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
I was like then so hungry. I had to like I went and made a packet of sauce and then like went and bought fries and had to eat it right away because I was like, oh, now I want really good ketchup and not what's in the fridge right now.
Oh man, and I think if you it was a little bit before you made yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just went over to a friend's house who had some of those original samples, and like the packaging wasn't. It was like our first iteration, and I like cringed when I saw it. I was like, oh man, and I made it. Still worked. It was good.
Yep, still worked. That's
Yeah.
what matters. And you mentioned a little bit, you mentioned a pivot. Can you talk a little bit about what's on your mind? What's top of mind right now?
Yeah, well, kind of off of this conversation. So because our product is so trial dependent, like it's really important for people to see it and taste it. Direct to consumer is super hard. I think direct to consumer is hard for any brand, but with a brand that's first to market and is so trial dependent, it only extends that runway. And so the good thing about our product is the applications like omni-channel for Awesome Sauce is at a different level than a traditional packaged good company. So we're starting to focus on food service. So if you think about like our long range, think about Coke Freestyle machine for condiments, or like like a bevy machine. So a consumer is able to go up, select the sauce that they want with whatever iteration, a flavor iteration, and dispense it. And so our value prop is still this massive ESG. So it's not removing single-use plastic bottles, but it's looking at how the food service industry works with sauces and condiments. And so we're so much lighter, we so much less volume. So there's a whole bunch of these operational wins, but the ESG and the customizable, innovative experience is really what we're leaning on to go into food service. And we're excited about. We're getting a lot more traction. It's scary to pivot. If there's anybody out there that's listening to this that's done the pivot, like shout out to you guys because that is a hard thing to do. And we just got so much feedback over from advisors and mentors and investors that, after a while we're like, okay, this makes sense. And it wasn't because we're failing on direct to consumer. It's more about speed to market and, our products first. And so we don't have to like sort of follow any lagging tailwinds from another product that's super similar. And so we're going full steam food service right now, but we just got onto Amazon. So if you need to re-up, jump onto Amazon and throw
Okay.
a review on there. That would be great. So we'll keep the D2C side going. But our focus is food service.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. We've been starting to try to put out some more food service related content into the world at Startup CPG with a recent webinar, and we're doing a first hires in food service sales podcast
Oh,
coming
super
up.
interesting.
So yeah, I think that there's a lot of just for a lot of our brands, a lot of hunger for knowledge in food service, and for your product, it sounds like it really makes sense, and it's a very unique channel. So I'm excited to see how you work in that channel, and just excited for the change that you can create in that channel from a sustainability perspective. Like that's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, our focus is still Heinz. Like we're going at the top, and so I think sorry, I think the opportunity that food service presents from a awareness perspective and helps drive the trial, then I think it really pushes that campaign to get on retail shelf. So yeah, that's really cool to hear that Startup CPG is looking at doing some food service stuff. I mean, it's been a huge resource for us thus far. So I'm glad that it'll continue to be.
Yeah. Well, on that note, how did you find Startup CPG?
Um, so, so I wish that there was like this sort of like aha moment of like, oh, Startup CPG has changed my life. It has. We're so pumped to get the Shelfie Award in our office. Thank you guys so much. I think that we totally messed up and didn't get a photo with it in enough time. So we're idiots. That's on us. Sorry. But anyway, when we first started, the first thing that I did was started compiling a list of investors just to figure out what are they looking for in this industry, to make sure that is our business aligning, is this venture backable. But in the same vein, also, like, what is the industry doing? I kind of mentioned we're going after Heinz. When you look at sauces and condiments, one, it's kind of a sleepy category, but it's massive. It's $130 billion. And you have small guys, you have medium guys, you have culturally inspired guys, you have guys who are really crushing the social media scene. Like, some of the brands like Fly by Jing and Truff and Bachan, like, they're doing such a great job. But then you look like the True Maids and now recent incumbent AWSM Sauce, and we're going after the big brand and really rethinking how the entire industry operates. And so right out of the bat, I started collecting as many brands or monitoring as many brands as possible. Do you know the CPGD?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Andrea's running. I basically built that and was like over the moon when I found out that it already existed. I was like, I'm an idiot. But in doing so, you start looking at brands and what they're doing and who's writing about them and the successes or the failures. You start listening to podcasts. And so in that research, there's a number of consulting agencies, marketing firms, content creators, and Startup CPG was one of them. And my I think the original poll that I did from Startup CPG was from you. So I wanted to go to Expo West a year ago, and I didn't want to buy the $1,100 ticket. And so there was a way of getting a free ticket if you're a podcaster. And so I was like, oh man, like Jessie does this great job of content. She's interviewing people. Like, let me do the same thing. And so I went and interviewed some people, and I got halfway there. They gave me a half off discount. But so I just started looking at what Startup CPG was doing and the brands that were going through Startup CPG. And then eventually just consume everything that comes out of Startup CPG, like content wise in the community. The Slack channel is super helpful. So
I love it. That's so cool. And I'm honored to have been a piece of your podcasting journey as well.
Yeah. You do. And just shout out to you. The amount of work that you do behind the scenes to make the podcast so meaningful, like, is really, really impressive. Our podcast is absolute shit compared to what you do. And it shows because of the work that you put in. So nice work.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really enjoyed the Ketchup and Hustle podcast, and I'm going to link it in the show notes because I think people should give it a listen. I think it's great.
Oh, man. For all of the work that you do to line these up and find out about the companies and get meaningful questions, we're literally talking on the phone when we drive to the studio. Like, what did we do over the last 2 weeks? Like, what are we going to talk about this time? So
it's a good time though.
I shame myself in the shadows of what you're doing with this. So.
Oh, well, you're too kind. On the note of Startup CPG and being part of Startup CPG as well, you also were a backpack brand at Expo East, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that experience because we called it the mic drop party. It was underground karaoke bar, and we had all these awesome brands sampling, no pun intended, maybe pun intended. And like all night, you were just like, you and Paul were slinging fries and sauce, how was it?
I'm gonna be an open book here. I'm a little salty about mic drop. Paul and I are naturally competitive guys, and we thought we brought the sauce. We were moving fries, we were slinging sauce, everybody was loving it. And shout out to Prickly. They got the nod for what was it like? Was it the brand of the night or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh man. I just want to fight him in such a kind, friendly way.
Yeah.
Good for him. But anyway, the event was super cool. So it was in the evening of the first night of Expo East. And so it was 8 brands, right? We were able to go down. Yeah. We were able to prep. Man, I think like 1,000 people came through.
It felt like it. Yeah.
it was unbelievable. It was this really cool underground space in Philly. And so we had set up and they helped us get fries. And so we were sampling all 3 flavors. And it was cool to see all of the activity come to life because we listen to the podcast and we see the community, and you start to know the brands that are going through Startup CPG. But to actually be a part of it and be one of those brands, it felt really cool. We felt like little celebrities for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, you were. Yeah, it was so cool.
We do. I mean, we wear like the matching shoes and we have the red hats, and so
Yep.
we put on a show. But truly, it's humbling to be standing with all of the entrepreneurs and have people come through and recognize our brand, or say really like, I've been in the food industry for 30 years and I think this is a great opportunity. Like that's super meaningful for us, and it can be challenging because you never know which opportunity is going to be meaningful. Right? So you have to keep going. But the mic drop party was definitely one for the ages for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is circling back in the past, but I was thinking about like for how your product is really it's like a food technology and an innovation, and how long did it take to get to the version we're seeing now? Like how many iterations? Like what did it kind of look like to come up with a basically a new food technology? Like
Yeah, as we joke around a lot. I mean, just in general, it's our SaaS platform, our Sauce as a Service. It took we got some proprietary, what's the word? Some IP behind it. So really, I think before we got all fancy and went co-packer route, it was literally Paul and I ordering powders offline and mixing them in his kitchen. You like anecdotes. I think it was, so there was a Paul went away for like a 3-day vacation, and I was at home and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And so I had this 3-day bender on Clubhouse. Do you remember Clubhouse?
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was going after this one guy, Mike Fata, and I was just like, I want to throw the idea by him and see what he thinks. And so he was like, on LinkedIn, he just replied, find me on Clubhouse. I was like, well, what the hell is Clubhouse? So I downloaded the app. I locked myself in a room. I told my wife, like, don't bother me. It was like a beautiful mind. I had Post-its all over. And I was in every room. And because I had the little like new guy thing, I think they kept calling on me to pitch. And so I was pitching my ass off. Like one would be like a 3-minute pitch. One is like 90 seconds. And so I'm taking notes. I'm like, okay. And then everybody's like, follow up with me this way. I'm like, oh, okay. I did find him, and he gave me a huge shout out, which is totally cool. But in that process, we got accepted to Techstars. We got cast for a TV show. We found our designer, and we raised like $300K. It was the craziest
Wow.
three days of my life. But because we got into Techstars, they asked us to make a video of the product, like as a part of our application. And at that point, we were still metal bowl and spooning into compostable Ziploc bags. And we were at Paul's house at like 11 o'clock at night. I have the video. I'll send it to you after this so you can have a nice laugh. And we doubled the salt. And so it's like 11:30 at night. We have this video, and it's like Paul's reaction of like, we doubled the salt. Super annoying. So funny. But like, that's where we started. We were just, it was all by like, shout out to Paul. Like it was all his idea of like, hey, we should go with garlic powder or this. And then we got Terry, who's a food scientist from Cargill, to join our team, which took us up to the next level. We're working with our co-packer and some industry leaders and ingredient scientists. So at this point, we're like a year and a half into the food science side of it, well past Paul and I's sort of native abilities. And I mean, Paul's not mine. I'm just the guy who tries it. And it's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. But now on the machine side, it becomes a whole new cycle of R&D, which is way exciting, like totally cool. And to think, as you said, you're going from consumer to now consumer tech. Is a really cool shift and opens up a ton of opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love it. And
I babbled a little bit. Sorry. You can
no,
cut that. You can cut it if you want.
it's great. That's awesome. And like So, I mean, the journey's been super exciting to follow so far. Like, what's coming up next? What should we keep an eye out for in the coming year?
In the coming year. Well, so you should see us have some really exciting announcements early in the new year. Mustard is the next flavor. That's a standard, especially when you're going food service. But you should see some announcements where we will be placed as the official sauce of.
All right.
I won't. I won't spill the beans.
All right. That's super exciting. And where can we follow along? Like, what's your Instagram and your website? What's the best way to keep up?
Yeah, so awesomesauce.co is our handle for most things. I think probably the easiest is our Ketchup and Hustle podcast.
Okay, perfect. And awesome is spelled AWSM
AWSM.
for those listening. And I'll link everything in the show notes too so that people can just grab there. But hopefully everyone follows along and just tries your sauces from this is a cool technology, from a taste, like it'll improve your life. Like you didn't know condiments could get better because we've all just been trained to be like, this is what ketchup is, and we're just stuck with it forever. But we're here to tell you today that ketchup can be better. So I hope you all get it in your lives.
Yes. I hope everybody decides to sauce responsibly from now on. Or get lost in the sauce, whatever it is.
I love it. Well, Carl, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show, sharing a little bit with us, and just like so glad you're part of the Startup CPG community. And, we're all cheering for you. So really appreciate you.
Thank you. I totally feel like I leveled up by being on this podcast.
I love it. You definitely did. You definitely did. Thanks, Carl.